Welcome back to another episode of Morning Coffee. I'm your host, Rick Alexander. You guys can interact with me or follow me at @RickAlexander_ or at the Morning Coffee Podcast on Instagram. Now, if you're getting a lot from this show, if it's changing your life or even changing the way that you look at your life, it would mean the world to me if you would head to iTunes and give us a 5-star review so that we can continue to climb the charts and get this information to more and more people. Over the last year and a half, I've focused my work on the story that we tell ourselves about our lives. Your entire life is a bit of a story that you're telling yourself. And if you could tell yourself a different story, you could probably change your life quite a bit. And so I did that work for the release of my newest book, which is coming out in early 2020. But getting excited for that release, I actually wanted to go through a lot of the information that I had learned, a lot of my notes, and synthesize it into maxims, which is what we're getting into today. I've got 21 maxims to maximize your life, and what these are is just things that seem to be true about the human experience, and if you could understand how they are true, you could understand how they could change your life. And so if you go to rickalexander.com, what you're going to find is if you click on articles, the maxim of the day is going to be posted, whatever the last maxim was, and it's also going to have journal entries and thought experiments in there so that you can figure out how to apply these things to your own lives. And so a bit of an interactive experience. So throughout the next year, through my speaking, through my book release, and through these maxims, I'm excited to see how this information can really change the world and change your world if you give it an opportunity to. Today, I want to introduce an idea to you that if progress is the goal, meaning if the goal is to strive forward in some way, then meaning actually becomes this inalienable right. And the reason being is because if you want progress, then what you're going to reach is adversity. And to get through adversity, you've got to have a vision that pulls you, that motivates you, that actually makes you want to push through the adversity that you're shouldering. And so that's why I always say that authenticity is the quickest path to high performance, because if you're actually working in a place that you want to, and that place has intrinsic meaning to you, there's almost nothing that you won't do. There's almost nothing that you won't shoulder in order to get where it is that you want to go. And even if you don't think about what you're doing now as a career as shouldering some extreme amount of risk, times are still going to get tough, right? Because you're still doing the human thing. Like, you're still in this impermanent world. And so even in that aspect, I would say that you have this right to meaning, because you have a right to find a motivation that's going to push you amidst all of the heartache and all of the loss and all of the malevolence and all of the letdown that you're going to deal with in this life. And when people aren't living this authentic path, and then they start shouldering all of this malevolence and all of this heartache, then what you find is that the will to go on, it's diminished greatly, because we need meaning. We need to have something that pulls us. The reason we should seek to see the pursuit of meaning in life as an inalienable right is because when someone has a sense of meaning, they're constantly pushed to show up as something approximating the absolute best version of themselves, or they're at least pushed to put their best foot forward. There's a book called Drive. I think it was written by Daniel Pink, and I can't remember that exactly, but there's a book called Drive. And in that book, he talks about workplace motivations and like what really pushes us. And in it, he goes through all these different studies and theories of motivation and behavior. And, one of the things that he comes to find is that all of the things you would think would push people and motivate people to do better in the workplace actually don't. Like, more time off isn't one of the things that ultimately isn't the strongest motivation for people to work harder. More money also isn't the thing that pushes people to work the hardest. What actually pushed people to work the hardest was autonomy, was agency, was giving them control over their own thing, because then they're free to create a sense of meaning for themselves. And so in some way, it's actually science that we need meaning in order to push us toward what it is that we want in life, or toward whatever it is, toward ultimate success, which is, again, why I say if progress is the goal, right? If ultimate success is the goal, then having meaning in your life isn't up for question. It's not up for debate. You actually need it. You need something that's going to pull you. When it comes to architecting a society, what else could you ask for than a group of citizens who are all doing their absolute best to play their part, whatever that is? This is one of the true responsibilities that society should actually push, in my opinion. The thinking that gave us our current construct is that we should train people to play a part without ever stopping to ask if it's the part they want to play. But how much different, happier, and more effective might the world be if we were taught to find a meaning in what we do? Because then the part we'd be playing actually would mean something to us. And so, we can find little areas of meaning in lives, in our jobs, even if they don't provide some sort of ultimate meaning. But I would say to continue to strive and look for the thing that's going to allow you to derive the most meaning. And it's not a selfish thing. It's actually because if you do that, you're going to be the best version for you and the best for everybody else. And so then you get into this place where you're not just a cog in a machine, but you're the cog that you were meant to be, right? You're the actual puzzle piece that you were meant to be. And so you fit exactly where you should be. Perhaps our struggle over a correct minimum wage is actually a conversation that is stemming from framing the problem incorrectly to begin with. Right? So stay with me on this. Since wage is a way of valuing competence, it would stand to reason that if we had many more people pursuing paths that they were intrinsically motivated toward, competence wouldn't be something that we were so concerned with. What happens a lot of times is that people get in these low-level, entry-level jobs that pay minimum wage, and that wage is based on the value that person provides, and the value that person provides is based on their competence, on the skill that they're actually plugging themselves into. And so if you found people that were only doing things that had intrinsic meaning for them, what you would find, it's not that you can't be a cog in a wheel, it's that there's a specific cog that you could play. There's a specific role that you could play. I think it's interesting that we're the only thing in nature that doesn't understand our job is to only be exactly what we are. Right? Like if you look out in nature, which we came out of, it's like every single thing understands, like the tree understands, it just exhales, right? Maybe it doesn't understand intrinsically in the way that we understand things to be true, but it just is, right? It doesn't have to be told what to do or who to be. And the thing that I'm starting to find is that people don't either, but they have to be working in a place that they're actually meant for, because you have all these intrinsic gifts. And right now you're just hoarding those gifts because you're not correctly positioned for impact in the world. And so I would just say that if you want progress, then you have to strive for meaning. Those two things are inextricably linked, because life is going to get super hard, and as it does, you're going to need that meaning to push you through it, right? It's the more meaning you can conjure, the more passionate you'll be, and the more likely you'll be to weather the storms that you're going to need to weather in order to get where you want to get. That's been my experience anyway. I love you guys. Hope you have an amazing day. We'll talk later on Morning Coffee.